Oh, you're still here.
Well, it's amazing to me, you know.
I forgot.
Usually a man walks out on the Tonight Show and says, Stan.
Wait.
Over one seat, Ginger Rogers is coming out. And you keep moving over one until there was no more chairs left, and the guy goes like that, and then you're out on 52nd Street in the snow.
I was often on Ed's lap when I was a guest.
That happens.
Say, listen,
Yeah.
I forgot to ask him about the Maharishi. That's the one thing. Did they mention that on the shows you were on with them?
They mentioned it briefly. He said, I think he's getting phased out. You know, he had a lot of overhead, you know. I mean, the sheets and fruit bill alone, you know. Anyhow, palm boughs, you know. At any rate, I heard that he was going to franchise himself like Colonel Saunders. No, that's what I heard, and I heard he was going to open up in Los Angeles in the Hollywood Ranch Market, right next to the barbecued ribs booth. And the deal was that you give him a month's salary, and it's a transcendental meditation booth there. You give him a month's salary, and what you get in return is self-realization and a choice of transcendental meditation or coleslaw.
That's it. Can we send the mail from his followers to you when it comes in? Listen, it's only a matter of time. I knew when you hit in commercials and all that the politicos would realize that you might be able to put them over the top. You've done some political stuff, haven't you?
Yes, although I'm kind of choosy what I take on. I've never taken on a political candidate. I've been asked by a couple. Mr. Humphrey asked me to help him, and strangely enough, just recently, an aide to George Wallace was convinced that I was the only person that could explain George Wallace to the rest of America.
But I turned
both of those people down.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I recently had the honor, really, of helping Senator Mark Hatfield and Senator George McGovern with their amendment to end the war, which was defeated, unfortunately, in the Senate. But the idea was that the previous year, you know, they had a vote and was defeated.
Yeah.
And so the idea was that Senator Hatfield said, maybe Stan Freberg is a man to contact to create some radio messages that would be put on the air in, say, 21 states where the senators were on the fence, you know. They weren't sure if they were going to vote for the date certain of a withdrawal from Vietnam by December 31st or not. For example, they wouldn't put it on in Arizona because Mr. Goldwater is committed one way, and in New York, you know, Javits and so forth are committed another way. So
we
they
have
just,
those.
Huh?
We have them, don't we?
We have those spots, yes,
yeah.
and so I put these radio spots on the air in 21 states, and they asked that people send telegrams to their congressmen and senators urging them to vote for this. Unfortunately, Western Union went on strike the day before we went on the air, which I still think was an administration plot of some sort.
Do you really?
Well, it was very important to them that that didn't get passed for some reason. They like to stay there forever and support that fantastic democratic election. That's what we've all been fighting for, right? A one-man election.
But Western Union, whether they're on strike or not, you can't get a wire sent. So, but that's
right,
another matter.
Right. That's another matter we'll go into later. But these spots, I'll tell you what they were. They were an exercise in deliberate bad taste or grossness, because I felt that we had all become desensitized to the Vietnam War. And I told this to the senators. I said, the problem is that people, they tend to think of the war after 10 years as a dramatic series like Combat that runs in the living room, because when they get through looking at all the blood and the wounded, you know, the body count, so forth, there comes Walter Cronkite. He isn't wounded, and the whole thing is followed by a mouthwash commercial. You know, so how can that be a real war?
It's all sweet again. I'm rushing you only because we have to get them into this segment for some technical reasons. So
right, and because of the John Lennon film, which used up...
Okay, shall we give one a listen?
Why not? Yes.
Pretend you're listening to a radio.
And over here we have the 1971 Vietnam War toy.
Is that the same war that's on TV every night?
That's right.
Well, what do you do with it?
You just wind it down. Watch.
It's still going.
Oh, yeah. I never said it stopped. It just winds down.
But the implication...
We step into the next room. It's a little quieter.
Okay.
Now.
The implication in the term winding down... say, I can still hear the battle noise from the war toy.
Well, you'll get used to it. The further away you are from it, you know.
But isn't there any way to stop it?
There is. The United States Senate is about to vote on the withdrawal of American troops from Vietnam by the end of 1971, so that an end to the fighting and the return of all prisoners is allowed to become a reality. Send a telegram now in support of the McGovern-Hatfield amendment, or call your senator and congressman in Washington. Irresponsible demonstrations will not move them, but you may.
That's right. Two more? Maybe we should listen. We should hear them all, and then...
We didn't get the beginning of that in his studio. He was trying to sell him the 1971 Vietnam War toy. Anyhow, you want to hear one more? This is a possible newscast that could occur, you know.
Okay.
In the National League. Turning now from baseball to Vietnam, what's the score Indochina-wise, Harv?
Well, Ed, the old casualty list looks pretty promising. As opposed to 3 years ago when our deaths from hostile action in Vietnam was right up around 1,000 a week, late figures from the Pentagon show we've got it down to only 38 American deaths a week, which is, to this reporter's thinking, a pretty good batting average for the old visiting team, huh?
38 American boys killed in Vietnam a week? Why, listen, that's terrific. Who said we didn't know how to wind a war down?
Any predictions on when we'll really be out of there, Ed?
Well, who can call the shots on that?
There was another one. I'll just tell you the premise of it. It was a man trying to sell a better computer to a general in the Pentagon building. He was from a company called American Business Machine and Body Count. And the man says, well, we've got the body count down to about 38 American deaths a week now, so it poses no overload problem. And the guy says, all right, you're okay on body count, but let's talk wounded. Can your present machinery give this kind of a breakdown? Right. And you hear all this computer going, and he says, you got your single leg amputee count? You got your double. You got your 2 out of a possible 3 limb combo. Yeah. You want a quick rundown on left ears for April? You got it. You know. Now that was really deliberate shock, you know, and people said to me, that's bad taste. I said, no, the war in Southeast Asia is what isn't bad taste.
Did you get a lot of mail from did mail come to you? Did they know who to write it to?
Well, yeah, you know, I got the usual kind of mail, like, where are you taking your orders from? Freberg, Moscow, you know? And the number of people said, okay, boy, we're out to get you, you know. But then we got a lot of wonderful mail, and the senators did. I felt very, very badly that, because of Western Union, nobody knew how to contact their senators. But there's a bill that people can still write their congressmen and senators in Washington, because a part of the defense bill that's about to be voted on, Senator Mansfield is sponsoring, along with the senators I mentioned and about, maybe 45 other senators, a similar amendment that would put a date certain, because I really believe we have to put the communists on the spot. They said if we'd set a date, they would work out the release of all prisoners and a ceasefire. And how will you ever know unless you put them on the spot? If they renege, well, you can always go back in with the B-52s if you want to go that far, you know.
Will you take an account you don't believe in? If it isn't, say, a major...
No, I won't. No, I don't.
You won't. You have to... Yeah.
You know, that looking back at the things I've taken on, one would say, well, it's some pretty deep, profound, heavy things you've taken on, Freberg, you know, like that.
Tomato paste.
Yeah, right. Some legacy. I've made the world safe for canned chow mein, you know, right?
Let us take a local station message. We'll be right back. Say, we have to move right along, Stan, but we have 3... I know...
I'm hip.
We have 3...
You see what has happened here. I'm already over here.
I'll tell you, next week we have 3 minutes open in one of the shows. Could you come back and
3 minutes?
fill
Yeah.
the 3...
What, have you got Alvino Ray coming out?